Okay, so we are reading Aghora, the left hand of God. We are on chapter 3, page number 92 of the book and page number 49 of the PDF.
Remember what Kabir says, when you come into the world, you are crying, and the world is laughing. You must live your life in such a way that when you go, the whole world will cry and you will laugh. And he did it too.
So again,
But
this is absolutely true, right? When the baby comes in, the baby is crying, the world is laughing. And when you go, you are laughing because once you exit the body, you realize that this was an illusion. And what you're going to was the bigger reality. So you are laughing and the world is crying. But having said that, we read in the magical child that a baby need not cry when the child is born. The child can automatically start breathing if provided the child is birthed in a very proper way. Okay, we read this in the magical child, although this is what normally happens. So
it is very uncommon to die aware like a yogi does. If people could only know what happens at death and after death, they would not make so many mistakes. My Ravi and I burned my father at Banganga in the same place where
so over here over here he says that if people only would know what happens at death, after death, and they would not make so many mistakes. So this is exactly what we are doing in awareness, right? The Monroe programs actually take you into a state of consciousness which you can experience, that you would experience after death. So when we are talking of the focus levels, the focus level 21 in the excursion workshop, you experience focus level 10 and 12, which is mind awake, body asleep. That is focus 10, where you actually experience that as if your mind is awake, but your body is asleep. So you can literally hear yourself snoring. I guess some people have attended the workshop, so they know what I'm talking about. Then you have focus 12, which is expanded awareness, where you can actually get a lot of guidance, etc. The next level is focus 15, which is a state of no time, where all time exists over there. So all past life regression, etc., takes place in focus 15. And then the next level is focus 21, which is the edge of physical reality. It is also called the bridge state, the state of consciousness which connects the physical and the etheric, where you transcend into a non-physical state of consciousness. Then you have focus 22, which is a state of coma, where a person does not know, is hanging in limbo between the expanded state or non-physical state and the physical state. You're stuck in the middle. Then you've got focus 23, where a person dies, has exited the body, but does not realize that they have exited the body. So all the ghost sightings, etc., that we talk about, that happens in the level of focus 23. Then you have something called the belief system territories, which is the 24, 25, and 26, where every culture, every organization has a setup. But you have to follow the rules and regulations of the setup or the territory in which you start becoming a member over there. I mean, you become a part of that particular setup, right? And then you have the park, which is focus 27, which is where what we were reading in Celestine prophecy also. They were simmering and then he suddenly disappeared. So they are going into focus 2027. If at any time we read the 10th insight, the next book after Celestine prophecy, they talk about the soul groups, etc. over there. In this book also a mention was there of the soul groups. So all that happens in focus 27, and then you go beyond that also. So now the fact of the matter is that anyone who knows the pathway, that what is going to happen to me when I after I leave this physical body. So when you leave the body, you have information, you have knowledge about that, right? So then naturally you're not going to make mistakes. You know what is going to happen and you do it. In fact, there is one sharing in a Lifeline program where this lady, and it's on video, maybe we'll watch the video one day, where she says it was a Lifeline program was actually filmed by a TV crew. She says, I went to this person and she was doing soul retrieval. So she went into 23. This guy was stuck there, and he says, "Oh, it's high time that someone came to pick me up," because he knew, and he just went with her and went into 27. So if you know what you need to do, then automatically that transition becomes much easier.
My Ravi and I burned my father at Banganga in the same place where I burned my mother and my son Ranu, and where I will be burned one day. When my father's body was in flames, don't you think his spirit must have been hovering about it somewhere? Of course it would have. Suppose you came home from work one day to find that your landlord had thrown you out of your flat and the building had been condemned by the city and then demolished. Wouldn't you hang around the area for a few hours or a few days to reorient yourself? Every dead person hovers about the body, wondering what to do next. Why do you think the Hindus cremate their dead only a few hours after death? Because the spirit may have some hope of returning to the body as long as the body exists. When that body has been reduced to ashes, though, the spirit has to find its own path. Burial encourages the spirit to hover about for quite a long time, especially if the body is well preserved. Muslims hold a 40-day reading of the Quran to which the spirit is specifically invited, but this is not good because it makes the spirit linger. The sooner the spirit leaves and begins to find its own way, the better.
So now, so once the spirit leaves, now the spirit has been in that space, in that physical body for quite a number of years. It's been there for some time, right? Now suddenly you are ejected. Now the spirit does not know where to go. So it is said that the spirit, the disconnection between the physical body and the spirit, the etheric matter, normally takes 24 hours. That's why in many cultures, the body is held in state for 24 hours. Until that full disconnection doesn't take place, the spirit can come back. So that's why you have these occasions where suddenly the guy woke up. We've also spoken about this. Ruth Montgomery talks about it in her books, where there's a walk in. So when a spirit is disconnecting, another spirit can also enter the body. So if you remove the body very quickly, it is actually a problem. I actually was testing when my grandmother passed away. I can't do this when anywhere else, but I was actually testing with the antenna as to when the disconnection took place, and the disconnection in my grandmother's case totally took place in 13 hours. I think it was 31 minutes or 13 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. And only after that we cremated her body system. Okay, so that's why we say that you need to keep the body for some time, but then you are connected, as we also said previously, that the spirit can get stuck to three things: place, person, or thing. So the body is also a thing, so the spirit can get stuck to the body. This is the reason why more ghost sightings are found in the graveyard than actually in the samshan. Okay, because शमशान में spirits रहते हैं, but graveyard में the spirit of the dead person is lingering around there, because the physical matter is there with which the spirit is connected. So it makes actual sense to cremate the body so that there's nothing left for the spirit to hang on to, and the transition and the what is the next step for the spirit can actually start taking that.
Niket, I have a question.
Yeah.
Just before this, you said that if you have the knowledge, then once a person dies, you know what to do. So you mean to say the memory stays?
Absolutely. What
Okay.
what you learn here, this is a school. And let me tell you, when people are going into these expanded states, people who are coming from the earth school are given a lot of importance in that space, because they know, if we, I mean, most probably we'll read Far Journeys, in that he actually indicates that there's a night school. When we are going into delta sleep, we totally disconnect from the body and all of us go out of body. And there are night schools which takes place. Robert Monroe talks about it, where he went when he was going out of the body during the night. He found schools over there where people were attending classes.
Oh,
Okay, and it's a
okay.
fact. There's a lot that we learn at night, and we are constantly progressing. We are constantly learning. So that's part of the game, right? We never unlearn what we have learned. It's
Okay.
always there in our consciousness, even after you
Okay.
transcend. That is why you have these prodigies, right? They come and they suddenly will start playing music. They'll become good artists. They'll start reciting stuff. How do they do that? There is something which is they've learned and they've just carried it and they remember that. Most of us tend
Yeah.
to forget what we did previously because we want to focus on the task that we've set for this life. But when we go into the expanded state, again, we'll start remembering it. That is what is said in most of the processes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
The poor dead person wants to let everyone know he is still alive and may become quite perturbed when no one around his body is listening to him, which is only reasonable, of course. You too would feel offended if all your relatives suddenly started to act as if you weren't there, when it is obvious to you that you are quite present. You can't blame the friends and relatives for failing to respond to the deceased selves. Humans, except those few who possess very subtle perception, cannot see or hear the dead.
So now what is happening? When we are in the 3D reality, our perception is so much. And when we transcend, we go into that. But the people who are left behind are still operating here. But I am there, right? So I'm operating in this spectrum or this frequency, and these people are operating in this frequency. Now, they don't have the capacity to observe that frequency in which you are operating. So, naturally, they don't know who you are. This was very clearly indicated in the movie Ghost. Okay. Now, that guy, the husband was killed and he was hovering around his wife and he was attempting to get the attention of his wife, but the wife could not, could not see him. And then Whoopi Goldberg came up and Whoopi Goldberg could see the spirits. So ultimately, what happened? He wanted to hug his wife. So Whoopi Goldberg gave him permission to enter her body and then hug his wife through her body. Are you all getting that? So over here, now when the soul has departed, the soul is hovering around the body and is attempting to call the people, but no one can see him because he is operating at a frequency beyond their perception limit, and it can become quite frustrating. Okay, so that's why we are chanting things, we are saying good things. Over here he also says that the Muslims hold that 41 thing where the Quran is said, right? Not that it is a good thing because the physical body is there, but after cremation, that's why we have the 12-day or 13-day ritual in the Hindu culture, where you are actually reading the Bhagavad Gita, or you are meeting, or you are chanting, or you are saying good things. Then you are hearing the Garud Puran, which says that after that what happens. Of course, Garud Puran tries to put fear into you. It's not what really happens, but yeah, there's a very good indication as to what happens when you transit. So you are doing all that. So that 13 days period is because of that. Most of the time people transcend, but at times people get stuck. When they get stuck, big problem. Okay, so when someone passes away, the first thing I would do is to understand whether the transition has taken place or not. If the transition has not taken place, then again it creates a huge issue. Okay, and the spirit is hovering around. I think I shared this story with you. I don't know in which book we shared it, but my cousin uncle had passed away, and उनका 12वां के अंदर में there was a bhajan ceremony, and I was sitting with my eyes closed, maybe in the 6th or 7th row, and I suddenly felt his presence in front of me. He came and he sat down in front of me. Now, he was a gentleman who always sat on the first row. He would never sit on the 7th or the 8th row, right? So I was thinking in my mind, my logical mind, that why am I sensing him here? He would never come here. Even if he came, he wouldn't sit here. And then after the bhajan was over, I opened my eyes and I found that his best friend was sitting in front of me. So he actually came and sat beside his best friend. Okay. So these kind of things also happen. Now, when you expand your sensory perception, you can actually start to perceive these things. And then you transcend your fear of death because you know that there is something beyond the physical, the 3D reality that we are living in.
This is why I say that very few death rituals in any religion have any significance at all for the dead person. The priests invented most of the ceremonies as a means of making money from people's gullibility, which is bad enough, except that almost none of the priests know anything at all about spirits, nor can they see and converse with them. The Vedic religion is not composed of useless rituals. Those which are meaningless were added later by greedy priests.
So some of the rituals are very significant. They actually hold value, but most of the rituals really hold no value. Okay. Now, having said that, most of the priests literally know nothing. They don't know what the hell they are doing. Right. We had gone to where we went, Brahmaji ka mandir, Shimangla. Where had we gone?
Pushkar.
Yeah. So we had gone to Pushkar. The guy over there says, the priest says that you do shraddh for your parents. Your parents are living and he wants to do shraddh for your parents. It is a total money making racket. So unless the priests know what they're talking about, and most of them are not operating at that high state of consciousness or that higher vibratory frequency where they can actually assess what is required and what is not required. Now, if a soul has actually transcended and moved on, you really don't need to do the shraddh anymore. You get what I'm saying? Because the person has already transcended. If the person has not transcended, then you definitely need to do the shraddh to give that soul energy so that it can move ahead in the direction that it needs to move in. Okay. So again, the priests really don't know anything. There's another, I mentioned this before. Generally speaking, when a person passes away, according to the ritual, we normally put the head on the north side, but for the last 3 or 4 years, these Karmkandis, there's some fitur going on. They insist on putting the head on the south side. Whereas when we are looking at electromagnetic fields, etc., we talk about it in the Vastu workshop. When you're sleeping during the day, when you're alive, your head should be on the south. Now you've transcended. So the polarity shift is there. So the head should go on the north when the spirit has left the body. But they don't understand the science behind all this, so naturally they don't get it. They'll follow a ritual. I mean, of course it's a ritual, but they'll follow a pattern. Okay, I don't know from where this thing came, but for the last 3 4 years I've been noticing this.
Can I say something, Niket?
Yeah,
Bua.
please.
I don't know why I can't sleep in the south side. I always turn myself on the north side. Then I fall
Okay.
asleep.
So there may be something again. Everyone is different, right? So we need to figure out what works for you. So
Okay.
what I normally do when I'm going to people's houses for vastu rectification, etc., I actually make them lie down on their bed and test their energy field while they're lying on the bed. There are many factors involved here. The size of the bed may be a problem. The size of the bed doesn't suit you. You'll not get good sleep. Okay.
No.
Plus, most of the houses are at an angle. They're not dead north. So
Mm,
that also can create a problem. And
mm,
also, for some people, their polarity is different. So they
mm,
are more comfortable with the opposite way. There's
mm,
no harm in it. We will always test. As I keep using this example, there was, I think it was in Nagpur, if I'm not mistaken. I went to this house and over there I found the Siddha Satya does not work. In their house only the ulta satya works. So I actually came out from their house using the ulta satya in their house, which is a total no anywhere else, but in their house it was working. So who am I to fight with it? Because it was working for them. So now if you can sleep better when your head is on the north, there is
mm.
no argument and discussion about it. Sleep on the
Yeah.
north. But
Because
that
you
is
have
not what
tested
generally
me.
happens.
You
Huh?
have tested me. You
Okay, if
have
I've
tested
tested.
and you said that it doesn't matter, Bua, you can sleep on the
Okay,
north.
so if I've tested, then I've tested. I don't remember, but okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Nikit, I also have a question here.
Yeah.
We were talking about Shraddh. So, what would you like to comment on the yearly Shraddh which we do, or would you like to take that up later?
No, no. So what is the Shraddh? As I told you, if the spirit has already transcended and moved ahead, then you
Yeah.
don't need to do the Shraddh, the yearly
Okay.
Shraddh. Okay. If the spirit is not fully transcended and still needs energy, so it's like a blessing or a good wish that you're giving to that person, to your ancestor. And there's no harm in remembering your ancestors because your ancestors are around you. If you get.
Yeah, that was the way I was looking at it, that
Absolutely.
we
So
remember
when you
ancestors. Yeah.
remember your ancestors, they have
Hmm.
a unique ID. So when you remember, you can actually connect with them, which is what we do in the Lifeline system, in the Lifeline
Yeah.
program. We
Hmm.
can connect with the ancestor, right? So that connection is there. You're remembering them with love during the Shraddh. Now, unfortunately, what happens in Shraddh is that most of the youngsters don't even know whose Shraddh it is, to be frank with you. So unless, what is the idea that today I'm remembering with fondness the person for whom I'm doing the Shraddh? That is the most important part of the Shraddh. The ritual is not so important. So you cook the food that that person really used to enjoy, okay, and then you consume it. So you're paying reverence to your ancestors, and that system is there in all cultures. In Japan, ancestors play a big part. In Bali, ancestors play a big part. In China, ancestors play a big part. Okay, in America, you have something called Thanksgiving. So who are you giving thanks to? You're giving thanks to everything, right? So it's there in all cultures, if you get what
May
I.
I ask you a question?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Thank you.
So, if you say that if the soul has already transcended, then there is no need to do a Shraddh every year.
Yeah,
Uh, in,
absolutely.
but if you remembered them on that day and you
Yeah,
decided to feed the poor in their memory, wouldn't that
yeah.
be a better thing
It could be, but you, if you want to feed the poor in their name, there's no harm in it.
instead of the Shraddh every year?
So that's a Shraddh.
But instead of calling the Pandit and doing
Yeah,
the,
no problem. No
because you
problem.
don't know what they're saying anyways, you don't know
Arre,
how genuine it
Poonam,
is.
that's what I'm saying, that it's the
Yeah.
thought which counts. What
Okay.
is the state of consciousness? What is the intent with which you are doing an action, which is more important than the ritual itself?
Okay.
Okay. So now if you're feeding the children in their name,
Yeah.
and you're doing it with a clear heart and a clear conscience, that you're doing it in their memory, and you're doing it because you love them, and you're doing it because you cared for them, and you're seeking their blessings. No harm. You feed the Brahman, you feed the children, you feed anyone. How does it matter? It's the thought which counts, in my view.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
pundits will definitely differ because I'm eating into their income, but
Right.
that is what the fact is.
Okay.
Okay.
I agree. Thank you.
But then, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, actually, then there is one school of thought. Someone was telling me that by remembering our ancestors, we are actually causing hurt because they get rebirth exactly.
We
Like
are
so.
multi-dimensional beings.
Hmm.
Okay,
Acha.
we exist in different planes simultaneously.
Okay.
So money, our energy, you may think that you are here right now, but you are here in this moment.
Hmm.
In the previous moment, you were somewhere else.
Okay.
And when you go into expanded states of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
time and space do not exist.
Okay.
So you are existing in every moment in time, every time.
Okay.
You
Mm-hmm.
understand? Now, if I'm stuck somewhere and then I'm calling you, it may become a problem. But if I have freedom of movement,
Hmm.
and I'm free to come to you, then there is
Okay.
no problem.
Acha, acha.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ask you something.
yeah.
How do you know that your ancestors have transcended or not?
Go now. You've done gateway. You've done lifeline, right?
Yes, yes.
So you know what to do.
Okay. Retrieval.
Yeah, when you were doing retrieval, what were you doing? Now, if you find that person in 27, the person has moved ahead. If you find the person stuck in 22 or 23, then you know that the person is stuck.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, this I think
Yeah.
has become
Yeah.
a hot topic. So,
Thank you.
Niket, I want to share something.
yeah, go ahead.
Uh, I lost my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, when 21 years back, and she left a 2-year-old daughter behind. Now, Anushree is 24 today, and something very uncanny happened last about a week back. We'd gone to see a boy for her.
Mm,
So just when I was leaving, Rajan and I were leaving, her mother just appeared,
yeah.
in front of me and said, "I'm coming with you."
Yeah.
And throughout the while that we were at those gentlemen's place, I
Mm,
could feel her sitting next to me,
mm,
and she was there throughout. I mean, it's not that I consciously thought of her or called her, but she just appeared,
yeah.
and
Perfect.
so that showed that the bond with the child, because it was her daughter, she automatically appeared and she was there throughout.
Absolutely. They always appear. So Ravindraji is not here. His mother has just passed away.
Hmm.
But Ravindraji perceives it, right? And we play a game. So I'll say that there are three people here, and he'll say, yes, there are three people here. So that kind of situation is there. So you can actually perceive them, provided you are in that tune of mind. And plus, they can also, put thoughts into your head. So, like today, you were connected with your bhabhi, right? And you're doing all this stuff. So you are more open to or more receptive to that. So you could
Very
perceive her.
receptive.
Yeah, so you could perceive her.
Okay, thanks.
Shimangla, I guess you're on.
This is why I say that very few death rituals in any religion have any significance at all for the dead person. The priests invented most of the ceremonies as a means of making money from people's gullibility, which is bad enough, except that almost none of the priests know anything at all about spirits, nor can they see and converse with them. The Vedic religion is not composed of useless rituals. Those which are meaningless were added later by the greedy priests.
So this is an important. The Vedic religion is not composed of any useless rituals. So the Vedic religion was very, very scientific, right? Now, anything that was done had a lot of rationale behind that particular activity. So the point is that we need to study, we need to actually understand what was the reason why something was said in a particular ritual. Okay, that becomes very important. Most of the priests are just learning by route. They're not actually going into the depth of why they were doing something.
After death, the corpse is to be bathed according to tradition. This is a good example of a meaningless ritual. Is there any use in bathing a corpse? Have you ever heard of anything more ridiculous? What is the use in cleaning it when in a few hours it will become ash, or worm, or vulture's food? Is the deceased worried about feeling clean when he is no longer has a body?
Technically, this is right. I mean, there's logic in this, but yeah, there's a ritual that you bathe the body before you take the body out of the house.
You
Now,
know,
one rationale may be there that today, in most cases, in the olden times, people died of some kind of a disease, right? And maybe washing the body was a means of clearly clearing the body up in the place where the person died, because that place was already contaminated, so that when they were taking to the burning ghat, the other people would not get contaminated. So this is what comes to my mind immediately when I'm reading this passage. But as far as the corpse is concerned, naturally, that it doesn't really matter if you wash it or not.
You know, one day I had an interesting thought. We Indians are mostly vegetarian, and when we die, we are eaten by vegetables. That is, we are consumed by wood, which is a plant material. We eat plants all during our lives, and when we die, the plants eat us in return. This is the law of karma. Muslims and Christians are predominantly meat eaters, and when they die, they are buried and become meat for worms to eat. Parsis are also meat eaters, and when they die, they are exposed on the towers of silence, and the vultures come and feast on them. I tell you, there is no escaping karma at all, except by grace.
So I don't know how many of you all know, but the Parsis have, they have a space where the body is just broken up and left over there for the vultures to feed. Now, this is becoming, sometimes it creates an issue. I know there is one such place in Bombay, they've shut it down. So, otherwise, naturally, the Christians and the Muslims, they bury the dead, and we Hindus, we burn our dead. So, that is a given thing.
What is even more amazing to me than the way people hold tightly to tradition is the changes which come over the deceased loved ones. I will never cease to be in awe of nature, of the power she has over the human mind. 5 minutes before he dies, a man's wife hugs him, kisses him, and cries over him. 5 minutes after he dies, she is afraid to touch the dead body. That peculiar feeling is there. Of course, she feels peculiar. Even when they used to enjoy sex and thought they were getting enjoyment from the body, they were really enjoying something else, each other. You never feel like cuddling or fondling a dead person because there is nothing within to cuddle or fondle. Only the outer shell remains.
So, this is absolutely true. Okay. Ek minute we are really caring for that person. The next minute there's a corpse. I don't want to touch the corpse. And this I've seen again and again over and over. You're loving the person, you love the person there also, right? This was the clothes that the person was wearing, that essence which was there. But we are really, what he's saying is very true. We are interacting with the essence that is running the body, not the body itself. Now, when we are attached to the body, we are attached to the materialistic aspect. But what is actually true is the spiritualistic aspect, which is the, you could say, the software. If you take an analog, it's between the hardware and the software. You may have a very, very fancy computer, but if you don't have a proper software, it's useless. So that essence, that atma बोल लो उसको चेतना बोल लो, whatever you may call that, that essence is what is important. That is what is running the body. So you could call it that God particle, that God ansh, which is running the body. So the God is the adhar of what is happening. There's this very nice, I won't say it's very nice, but there's this serial which is there in Netflix, I think. It is called Active Carbon, where they have these shells and they have the consciousness of the person is in a disc, and they insert the disc into that shell, and the consciousness takes over the body and starts to run. Robert Monroe talks about this kind of a thing in Far Journeys also, where he comes to a barrier and there are bodies lying in that barrier. And you can just enter any body, use it, discard the body, and again get back into another state of consciousness. He also, in his first book, he talked about locales, where he actually used to, when he used to go out of his body, he used to find himself in another person's body, and he's seeing himself do all the activities that other person is doing. So these things are very real, actually.
Shall I go further? After the husband dies, his corpse is removed from the house, and even after his cremation, the ashes are never brought home. Why? Because his spirit might come and trouble his wife? How absurd. Don't people have any common sense? They have been married for years, and they must have made love hundreds of times. If the spirit does come, he will love her. He will try to help her out. Isn't it logical? But when it comes to death, very few do what is logical.
So again, we've spoken about this. There is something called the ethnocentric spirits. So in South America, the villagers are really warring with each other, and when a warrior passes on, they become ethnocentric spirits which actually want to protect the village, right? So like that, if you love someone, when you transcend, you're always going to be looking after the interests of that person. You're wanting to care for that person. Why will you come and harm that person? In my experience, I have seen the spirits also are wanting something, they're desiring something. If you can just communicate with them and ask them, what are you looking for, what do you want, and you give them what they want, and there is no problem whatsoever. I'll share one example with you. So there was this building. I think it was in where was it? It was not in Indore. Anyway, whichever city it was some 25 years back. This thing happened, and the building was ready. It was right in the central district, beautifully made building. The building was literally ready, but in the office, people were saying, yeah, we are going to take it, we are going to buy it. When they came to the building property, they would not enter it, they used to leave from the gate. Okay. And the owners could not figure out what was happening because they won't enter the property, they leave from there. So when I went there, what I saw was there were six people. They were sitting on a charpoy right on the gate and they were making sure no one was going to enter that place. So this is serious. Okay, this actually happened. So I told them, I asked them, what do you want? Why are you blocking everyone? Says, nahi, humko daru chahiye. So I told the owner that, okay, get me a bottle of whiskey. And I actually poured a bottle of whiskey where those guys were, where I perceived them to be sitting. And let me tell you, in 6 months' time, that building had been ready for 6 years and it was not selling. In 6 months, the entire building sold. So things like this automatically happen, right? Now, if I love someone, why will I want to harm that person? It's not logical, right? So if you give them what they need, they're not going to trouble you anymore.
When Roshni's father died, I warned all his relatives not to waste money on any rituals. I told them frankly that there was no use and whatever could be done for him was up to me to do. His sister said to me, "You are a Hindu. What do you know about our Parsi religion? All the rituals will be performed and the family will pay for it. That is our way." I told her, "This has nothing to do with religion. This is a case of looting my poor children of part of the money their father left, and that too for something which is useless. If it could do some good, I would never object."
So,
But she wouldn't.
so he was operating at a higher state of consciousness. He knew what was required. But naturally, the other people are operating at a lower state of consciousness and they would like to follow the rituals, which is the normal norm. So there's no harm in doing it because you're not going to create any problem 9 out of 10 times. I can't say 100 out of 100 times. 9 out of 10 times, no harm is done. Okay, but then again, it's a waste of money.
I told her, "This has nothing to do with religion. This is a case of looting my poor children of part of the money their father left, and that too for something which is useless. If it could do some good, I would never object." But she wouldn't listen to me. Eventually, I lost my temper and said, "Go ahead and do it and face the consequences." They did, and within a few months, this lady and all the relatives who had abetted her injured their left legs. She broke hers so badly it had to be put back together with screws and a metal plate. Only my foster daughter, Roshni, was spared. I've always been fond of her.
So he protected Roshni because he had made a statement, right? Now, when a evolved person makes a statement and you go against that statement, then the guys who are with him, they don't like it. So at times you can get the whip. Okay, you can get beaten up if you get too cocky with them.
So that means he was responsible for them getting hurt.
No, 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 no. He told them that it's no use, right? Now they didn't listen to him. So it's not a question of whether he was responsible or not. They were doing something which was not really required. So many times, what I'm saying, I just added that statement that many times we have helping spirits with us. Like I said, the ethnocentric spirits are there, right? Now, if anyone tries to harm the village, those spirits are going to attack that person because they're harming their village. So if this guy, if they were doing something which was not correct, so naturally they will face the brunt of it. Again, it's also karma which is there.
When one of my Guru Maharaj's disciples died, I was told that he was going to be burned on a sandalwood funeral pyre, which would cost about $3,000. Isn't it the stupidest thing? When the spirit has left the body, is burning it on sandalwood going to make any difference? When you finally leave your body, you see so many new things, you experience so many unique things that you have no time to bother about how your old body is being destroyed.
So when you transcend this physical body and you go into that other reality, like Focus 27, believe me, when you go there, when you experience that, this reality is nothing compared to that reality. So when I'm going to be consciously present in that reality, why should I bother about this reality? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, this is an illusion. That's what science is also saying. That today everything is made out of atoms. Atoms are made out of neutrons, electrons, and protons. And the atom is 99.99% space. Now everything is made out of space, but in our perception, it is real, right? Even in our scriptures, in the Gita talks and the other talks, they're constantly saying everything is an illusion, everything is an illusion, everything is an illusion. But to us, it is real, right? And we get attached to this illusion. So the idea is to actually transcend the illusion. Okay.
At the time of cremation, a pind, ball of rice flour, is put out for crows to eat. The crow is a very smart bird. If a good observer is nearby, he will notice that sometimes no crow will take the pin. Now, crows are always hungry and they would like to take it. But that spirit is hovering around the pin and is refusing to allow any crow to eat it. The spirit is very frustrated. He has been calling and calling, but no one can hear him. This is the only way in which he can draw attention to himself.
So now, if the spirit is hovering around the body, the animals are very sensitive. They can actually sense, especially dogs. They will start howling. Okay. Cats are also very sensitive. This was one of the reasons why cats were associated with witches, because they are very sensitive and they sense the spirits. They can actually perceive them. So they know what is happening and they will react in a certain way depending on who the spirit is. Like many times, a dog will suddenly start following someone. The owner has come back. And because the dog knows the smell of the owner or knows the perception of that owner, the dog will start following that owner. Although the owner is in spirit form. There's this movie called Astral City. All this is explained very well in that movie. Okay, maybe we'll start having a movie show maybe in January.
When you notice that the crows are not eating the pin, you must understand that the spirit has some vasana remaining, some earnest desire that was left unfulfilled during his lifetime. Then, if you care for the peace of the spirit, you must go to the pin and say, if you have some unfulfilled desire, come to me in a dream or tell me in some other way, and the spirit will try to contact you.
Okay. So now this also is very important. Now, many, as I told you, the spirit can get stuck with three things: time, place, person, or thing. Now, if the spirit is stuck with something or wants to have achieved something which there is a desire to achieve and it has not been achieved, then the spirit cannot transcend. It happened in one case that the person was there and I was sensing the person has gone out, okay, has gone, and the person is attached to instruments. the instrument has flatlined. If you see, the EEG is going like this when the person is alive or the spirit is there, the person has flatlined. Okay. And I'm sitting in the other room and I'm saying, okay, now he's back. And the instrument is going ting, ting, ting again. It happened 3 times. And then I told his son that you have to go and tell your father that this is what I mean. I will take care of this. I will take care of this. I will take care of this. Right. And then after that, the father transcended. Why? Because the father was very worried about those 3 things. And because he was worried about that, he was not able to exit the body and kept coming back. And it happened 3 times. And the instruments were showing that he's left it flatlined and then he came back. Okay, so this is what he's saying. Now if the spirit is not clear, the spirit will keep coming back. And then he says over here, you have to tell the spirit that okay, I will take care of it, or you come and tell me and I will do it. Ravindraji had a very stark experience. He's not here, of course. His mother just passed away, by the way. So he one of his cousins, cousin Chacha or someone had passed away, and the Chacha came to him and told him that inside an almirah, inside the drawer of the almirah, there is a red packet with a certain jewelry piece. Tell my sons to take that out and give it to my wife. And there was no way for him to actually know that that was there. And he went and told them. They actually took out that piece and gave it to the mother. So this communication is very real. Let me tell you, it's not something. Of course, today Ravindraji is not there, but otherwise he would have shared this story with you. So things like this actually happen. Okay. Um, I've had 3 other cases where a person was wanting to transcend but was not able to transcend. I've shared this before also. I don't know if how many of you all have heard this story, but it happened thrice with me. So I got a call from this cousin of mine, and it was a Sasuji, and she called me and told me that I know that she wants to go, but she's not being able to go. So I said, let me look. So when I looked, I found that they have a factory in South Calcutta. And I found that near the factory, she used to go, they had a temple, and she used to go regularly to that temple. I said that there's something there which is stopping her from transcending over here. So I went to their factory over there, and there was a tree near that mandir, and I found someone sitting on that tree. So I spoke to that person and told him to made him transcend. And the moment I did it over there, I made a phone call and she transcended over here. Okay. So what was happening? That entity, that spirit who was there was actually getting fed by her. He used to get stuff from her whenever she used to go there. So now he's feeling that if she goes, I will not get what I want. So he was not letting her go over here. Okay, number one. Number two, this lady was stuck and she's not being able to transcend. So so when I looked at it, I found that there's something related with a snake. So I told them, put 2 bags of milk on her chest and then go and feed it to a snake. Right? It needed to be fed to one snake. So I said, to be apparently abundantly cautious, feed it to 2 snakes. So they took that thing. The first day, no snake came. So nothing happened. The second day, the snakes came and immediately she transcended. In a third case, what happened? Again, I was given the same cousin. Yeah, it happened thrice with the same cousin. She's saying, my friend Sasuji is not being able to go. So what do we do? So I looked at it, and then I called her and told her that Bhabi, my cousin's friend Bhabi, I thought that she had something tied uh, around her
Wrist.
hand, around her
Yeah.
wrist, which was stopping her Sasuji from transcending. And then there was a small ritual I told them to do. I said to give milk to a tulsi plant and tie a moli around the tulsi plant, and that band that she was wearing to take it out. Now she got mad, this Bhabi, because she felt that people are blaming her. But the fact was, maybe the Sasuji had tied that band to her, and because of that, she was not able to go. And as soon as she took out that band and did that small ritual, the Sasu went into Turiya. Her tongue went back. I think they'll be talking about this, where people Aghoris and all, they actually cut. There's a skin under the tongue. They actually cut it so that the tongue can go back and go into the cavity and then touch the upstairs. And then a sweet, they call it the nectar, which starts to fall, which helps you to go into altered state of consciousness. So she literally went into that state of consciousness and she started chanting mantras which she never knew in her regular life, right? And then she transcended. So this stuff is very real, let me tell you. So what happens here is if you have unfinished business, that is why the reason of Vanprasth also, that towards the end of your life, you need to start detaching, you need to start giving up stuff so that you're not attached to anything. Because when the time for transition comes, if you are attached to something, then you're bound to get stuck over here. So the quicker we get rid of stuff and drop our attachments with whatever is around us, the better off we will be in the longer run. Okay, so this is what he's meaning over here. If you have any unfulfilled desires, come to me in a dream or tell me in some other way, and the spirit will try to contact you. So the spirits actually try to contact you.
This very thing happened to one of my children not too long ago. He did not talk to the pin, but one of his recently deceased friends came to him in a peculiar sort of dream and asked him to help provide a better home for his now fatherless children. And he is going to do that now to satisfy the spirit. Both the Hindus and the Parsis offer food to their departed loved ones, who consume it ethereally by smelling rather than tasting it.
Okay,
The
Shweta, 1 second. Now, this is important thing that he's mentioned over here, right? In the spiritual world, you don't consume by eating, you consume by smelling, right? So the smell disappears. Many times the food says smell will disappear. That means it has been consumed.
external form of the food doesn't change. I caution everyone I know never to eat food offered to a dead person. Such food has been polluted by the spirit's intense desire to return to physical life, which has a ruinous effect on the mind. You can even make a practical demonstration of this. Find a saint in Samadhi and put some of this food into his mouth. He will directly come down from his Samadhi. The pull of the physical is so strong. Priests are well known for eating such food, and this explains why their intellects are so materialistic even though they worship continuously.
So this is important. The priests are connected with materialism rather than spiritualism because they're constantly interacting with the materialistic side of stuff, right? Grounding is a very, very important part of the Monroe process because we live in this reality. So in when we talk in the Monroe process, we want you to exist here and there at the same time. So that's why consuming food is one of the ways of grounding. So you want to come back to the physical body, eat food. So we'll tell you eat in the programs. In most other meditative programs, they'll tell you not to eat. In our program, we tell you to eat because you go into flight so easy because the technology is taking you into that altered state so easily that we want you to get grounded. So we tell you to keep snacks around you and eat while the program is on. I think we can stop here now. Okay.
Okay.
Nikita, I have a question.